Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak joining us here on the program. Matt, good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Chad. Good morning. How about you?
Doing great. I guess we're still all waiting for Joe Biden to finally make his pick known, who he's going to choose as a running mate. Matt, I think it's interesting. You know, it seems like Kamala Harris and Susan Rice are the top two candidates for that position. At least they're thought of that way. But then you had the governor of Michigan fly in to see Joe Biden. Is that maybe piquing your interest a little bit that Joe Biden may kind of head fake everybody and pick the governor of Michigan?
So a few days ago, I don't know, maybe Friday, it sounded like there was a few days there where she was the only one that we'd been able to the press had confirmed had actually interviewed with him in person, and so there was a little bit of a feeding frenzy there for a little while. I still think the odds she's the choice are pretty low. You know, he's really signaled and really he's been sort of pressured to choose a so-called woman of color. And so choosing a white woman after, naming these finalists and interviewing them and all the speculation would sure be a slap in the face. He's apparently now, according to the New York Times story last night, interviewed all the finalists, which could be 5 people, could be 10 people. We don't really know the exact number, but he's interviewed all of them. And that may be as much about the vice presidency as it is about the cabinet. Which slots are you interested in? Which are you not interested in? Here's what we think. Here's where we think you might be a fit. Here's how you can help us thrust the campaign. I mean, I think those are probably the kinds of things you discuss, even with people who maybe you aren't ultimately going to choose. Look, the advantage for choosing Whitmer is if you believe the Midwest is going to decide the election, which has basically been my position from the beginning, she's really about the only choice they have. It's a Midwestern choice. I mean, Tammy Baldwin, who's a Democratic senator from Wisconsin, I guess would be another, but she's really not gotten much attention. Whitmer has her own problems. I mean, she's really been kind of tyrannical in the state of Michigan, some bizarre, policies, not letting people buy diapers in the grocery store for some bizarre reason, all the protests you saw at the state capitol, and her numbers have come down a little bit. So I don't think she's going to be the choice. I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Harris or Rice. I think those are the overwhelmingly most likely choices. But the fact that he did bring Whitmer back, given that it seemed like she was kind of sliding down the list, shows maybe she's been kind of in the mix all along and we didn't know it. We do know that Biden and Whitmer have a really good relationship, and they've shown that in some of these virtual meetings they've had, virtual events they've had. But she's just been less of a focus over the last, few months as the coronavirus has really hit her state.
Yeah. It should be interesting, whoever he picks. Do you think that there was some polling out there showing that a lot of even Democrats don't think that Biden will serve out, even one full term, that, maybe after 2 years he hands it off to his vice president. Do you think the Trump campaign and others will make a bigger deal out of who Biden selects more than normal? Usually people are just voting for the top of the ticket. Do you think this election matters a little bit more?
I do, because of all the questions around Biden, and the poll you cited was Rasmussen, which had, I think, 59%. I believe it was 59%, so they didn't think Biden would finish his first term, which is really pretty shocking if you think about it. If that's true, I mean, I don't know how you vote for someone who you don't think can serve the entire 4 years. You literally think would become incapacitated or would die. That would seem to me to be a pretty compelling reason not to vote for that person. Look, this is the most consequential vice presidential choice in a generation. Given all the questions around Biden, given the likelihood he doesn't run for re-election, he's basically choosing the front runner for 2024 and perhaps someone who becomes president before then, if he were to win. So it is a very consequential choice. I do think, given kind of the world we live in, this person's going to face more scrutiny than anyone who's ever been selected for vice president, far more than he did in 2008, far more than Sarah Palin did in 2008. I think it's going to be pretty relentless. And you're already seeing the Democratic groups say anything that criticizes the record of the female choice is sexist.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there's a group started, I think it's called. So, but, look, yeah, this matters. It matters, and I think the big question, apart from who it is and good and bad and all that, is whether this vice presidential choice is going to reframe this race or not, reset it. Is it going to smoke Biden out of the basement so he has to start campaigning and answering questions and doing interviews? What are the good and bad that come with this vice presidential choice? Who's happy? Who's not happy? What does it mean to the electoral map? What does it mean to the polling that we're seeing? How does the public view the choice that Biden makes? These are the questions that are going to matter. And I've seen some analysts say, this is going to only matter for a few days before Trump will have his convention and we'll be back to Trump versus Biden. That may be the case. It may be this VP choice is more consequential than that.
Yeah. Matt, what are the Democrats planning as far as their convention? Are they going to have anybody, on stage, and are they going to have people in an audience, or is this just going to be kind of what we saw with the Republicans and the Democrats here in Texas, where it's all virtually done and kind of lifeless?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more that virtual sort of approach. I don't know if they have to have the delegates there. I imagine you do, and you haven't participated, obviously. Imagine they may be there from sort of a party business standpoint. But yeah, it looks like even the speakers aren't going to be there. I saw this morning that Michelle Obama is quite literally taping her. Not even going to be giving these live. At least some of the speakers won't be, which kind of, that's almost like a sitcom.
That's bad TV.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how you give a convention speech taped, particularly like a keynote. It's one thing if it's a short message or something, but it's hard for me to see how the networks are going to justify spending giving 4 days to each of the parties if all they're going to do is play taped, promotional videos, like it's an infomercial. So, we'll see what it looks like. But yeah, I think they're going to have, like you normally see, 2 or 3 big speakers every night. That sounds like AOC is going to introduce Bernie Sanders on I think Tuesday. You'd imagine that Michelle Obama and Barack Obama would be there. Be interesting to see whether Hillary gets to speak. It's one thing to perhaps watch. I imagine she probably will. But you'll have other people. Elizabeth Warren, I'm sure. All these VP finalists that don't get selected would get some kind of role. But, at some point you get to a place where how many speakers can you have? How many keynotes can you have? So in terms of what it looks like, I think that still remains to be seen. But, Biden himself is not even going to Milwaukee. I can't imagine that. And I guess there's a chance, it sounds like maybe Trump's not either. He may give his speech at Gettysburg. So this is a whole new world we're living through. Yeah,
absolutely. Tell folks how they can sign up for your newsletter, and also tell folks about your podcast.
Yeah, the newsletter, which I know you subscribe to, and we've got something like 25,000 subscribers now at mustreadtexas.com. Take all the top news from around the state, put it in one clean, easy-to-read email, and deliver it to inboxes every weekday morning. It's a great resource, so you don't miss any important news around the state. You can subscribe at mustreadtexas.com. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. It's available in the iTunes Store, on Google Play, on Stitcher, and on Spotify. Most recent episode is with John Yoo, who has a new book called Defender-in-Chief, which makes the case that Trump has actually been defending the Constitution, not violating it, as the left often says. And just purely coincidentally, we talked to him quite literally moments after he walked out of the Oval Office. He had just met with the president. So check that out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify.
All right, Matt, as always, appreciate your time. We'll visit with you next week.
Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO.